I wanted to talk a little bit about point of view today because it is so important to what we do as authors. I think a lot of times people don't understand exactly how important the choice of point of view is to the story that they're being told and how their readers experience that point of view. So why exactly is it that important? Well, point of view determines the narrator's relationship with the story, which in turn determines the reader's relationship with the characters. So depending on how you want your readers to experience your story, the choice of point of view can make a huge difference. So let's start with first person singular. First person singular uses I statements. In first person singular, the narrator and the reader and the protagonist of the story are all one. So there's this immediate connection. It's very immersive. The reader is experiencing the story with the character and the narrator. It contributes to that sense of being swept into a story that a lot of readers are looking for. But because the narrator and the protagonist and the reader are one and the same, the reader can only know what the protagonist knows and sees and hears. That can be limiting, but it can also increase dramatic tension. The reader is discovering whatever it is the protagonist is discovering all at the same time. There's also first person plural. That uses we statements. You'll see a little bit less of that. You still have some of that same connection that first person singular gives you because the narrator and the protagonists and the reader are all part of the same group. But you lose a little bit of that immersive feeling because it's not as specific as an experience. This is a group experiencing something, not one individual and what they're thinking, feeling, hearing, tasting, smelling. Let's talk a little bit about second person now. Now the protagonist and the reader are one, but the narrator is separate. It uses you statements. The narrator is addressing the reader and the protagonist. Again, you've got some of that immersive connection where the reader is experiencing whatever the protagonist is experiencing, but it's being reported by the narrator, which creates some separation. There's a little more telling there than there is showing. It can be fun, but it's notoriously difficult to maintain throughout a whole novel, and it can feel a little gimmicky. I highly recommend giving it a whirl at some point in a short story or something like that, just to see what it feels like. And I think we see a little bit more of it these days with storylines behind video games and certain apps that have a storyline through them. Next, I'd like to talk about third person limited. That's she, he, and they statements. This works well if you want to have more than one point of view character. But in third person limited, you only have one point of view character per scene. The narrator is separate from the point of view character, so there's a bit more of a distance between the reader and the character, but much of that can be bridged if you go into a deep point of view and really bring the reader into the character's experience. Because you stay in one point of view through an entire scene, the reader gets a chance to sink into that experience and into that character's thoughts and feelings and physical reality. Other point of view characters can be in the scene with that one point of view character, but we're not privy to their thoughts or their feelings or their internal physical experience. That has to be shown instead of told because we're experiencing it all through that one point of view character that the scene belongs to. It's an opportunity to make your characters even more distinct as you go into their thoughts and can have their scenes reflect their unique voices and worldviews, and for the reader to go on that deep dive with you. It's also an opportunity to create dramatic tension in the exact opposite way it works in a first-person point of view. The reader can know things the protagonists don't know because they've learned it through another point of view character in another scene, and we can have that edge-of-the-seat tension as our protagonist figures it out. Finally, there's third-person omniscient. Again, it's she, he, and they statements like third-person limited, but you can have multiple point-of-view characters and move between them at will in one scene without waiting for a scene or chapter break. It's the least immersive of all of these different points of view because there's always a separation between the reader and the characters and the narrator and the characters. Often the narrator is reporting what the characters are doing, saying, feeling, thinking, and we don't really get that opportunity to sink into that experience with the characters since we're moving between multiple experiences in the same scene. We also don't necessarily get a chance to develop those really unique voices, again, because we're moving back and forth between these characters, and it can get very confusing if we slip back and forth too much. And the reader can easily lose track of whose thoughts and feelings that they're reading. Most genre fiction, mystery, romance, speculative fiction, is written in either first person or third person limited. Those 2 points of view give the most immersive and visceral experiences to the reader, and that's often what the readers of those genres are looking for. Third person omniscient is a little more common in literary fiction, where readers are often looking for a more analytical experience. The most important thing for you to choose the point of view that works for you and for how you want your readers to experience that story, and to make that choice with intent.